first one in the family to do carpentry hands-on, and I also want to teach my kids, mostly that I have a daughter, that, you know, not to limit herself, that she can do whatever she sets her mind to. You know, whatever we're ready to go for, you know, we just got to be ready to try. So the reason why I chose carpentry is because I learned a lot with hands-on. Also, I know that there's not a lot of women out there working for carpentry, so why not give it a try? The things that have kept me here, or motivations, or my kids, also, like I said, the staff here is, they really remember you, you know, and if you're having a hard time in something, they're out to help you and just full support, whatever you need. Just let your counselor know and they'll find a way. My goal for after completing this class is going to apprenticeship for union, getting into there, learning from people that have been working there for a while, you know, learning everything.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Ellen Ader, and I'm so proud to join you today representing JobTrain's Board of Directors. With 56 years of operating in our community, JobTrain really has an understanding of this community that few organizations can share. Today, we are going to have an update on JobTrain's ambitious, game-changing vision. This vision includes an expansion of our capacity to provide the essential services that we offer today, as well as an expansion of our mission so that graduates like Karen will continue to be supported as they work to achieve full and long-term economic mobility. We really want to see our graduates get out of poverty and stay out. Our board is incredibly excited about this vision, and we're really proud of the JobTrain staff and have great confidence in their ability to deliver on this compelling vision. As Karen, our carpentry student in the introductory video shared, with what she has learned at JobTrain, she now has the confidence to share her perspective that if you don't limit yourself, you can achieve whatever you set out to do. I'm honored now to introduce you to JobTrain's President and CEO, who, like Karen, thinks well beyond the current limits. Barrie Hathaway.
Thank you so much, Ellen. You are an absolutely amazing board chair, one of the best that I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and your leadership with our board is nothing short of incredible. And as Ellen said, thank you everybody for being here today. This is an exciting moment for us. I'm very, very excited to be sharing with you this new, expanded, bold, and ambitious vision that JobTrain is bringing to the table. And I'm really excited to introduce you to two of our groundbreaking partners, Brad Powell from the Emerson Collective and Senator Josh Becker, both of whom have exciting, even larger visions and have trusted JobTrain and are bringing JobTrain into their vision to help inspire ours and their vision. There are a lot of things we agree on, Brad Powell, Senator Becker, and myself, but this is at the core of our partnership. We believe and we're certain that there is in fact dignity in work, that everybody should have the opportunity to earn a living wage, and importantly, to advance in their careers. Next slide, please, Judy. The problem that our low-income community members face is that there are daunting challenges to this idea of reaching full economic mobility. And these are the four domains, if you will, that JobTrain is operating in every day. First and foremost is the incredibly high cost of living in the Bay Area. The bar for economic mobility is very high here. You may not realize it, but a family of four with two working adults needs to earn $135,000 a year just to make ends meet in the Bay Area. This is a very high bar. The equity gap is one that I think we all understand very well. And in California and in the Bay Area, it's better understood than in most places. But think of it this way. We can all agree that there's talent, that talent is equally distributed across all communities. And I think we can all agree that opportunity is not evenly distributed across all communities. So our work is to bridge that gap, bridge that equity gap. This is a complicated but doable scenario that we're working in. The skills gap is very straightforward and probably the easiest to understand and frankly the easiest to address. The skills gap is this: employers need talent that have certain skills. Our communities have plenty of talent but don't necessarily have the skills employers need. So when we work with community members, we help them build the skills employers need, and then they bring their talent and those skills to the workplace. And then lastly, in one of the places that it gets the least amount of attention in workforce development and is at the heart really of our vision for going forward, is this advancement gap. Unfortunately, we know across the workforce development space that while a lot of us are good at getting people into career pathways that can lead to economic mobility, there is a relatively low number of those people actually make it all the way there. So this advancement gap is at the heart of our work in the economic mobility thrust that we're working on. I'll tell you more about that. So with these domains that we're working on and with this new vision and with our new groundbreaking partners, we're doing two very significant and clear things. One, we're expanding the programs and services we offer today. To get on the road to economic mobility, we have to do what we already do. We're not turning off existing programs. What we're doing is building them out so more people can have access to them. Secondly, and equally important, is that in our work to drive toward this bold new initiative, this bold new imperative to help people achieve full economic mobility, there is going to have to be a tremendous amount of innovation. So we're working now in this bold vision to expand the work we do, to be able to reach more people and to improve on those programs, but secondly, to innovate around the idea of economic mobility. So let's talk about the service expansion a little bit. You can see from this chart that we're being very ambitious about the growth in our services that we're proposing. We're showing fiscal year 21, last fiscal year, as our benchmark, and you can see that this year already we're on a steep path for expanding our services. Now, some of this has been driven by the COVID pandemic. We've accelerated some of our expansion plans because we're aware, painfully aware, of how many people have lost their jobs, that we need to have better, more resources, more capacity to serve people as we come out of the pandemic. But you can see a very steep curve in our expansion of our services. And I should make it clear that if we do this well in this 4-year period, then the expansion beyond this period is going to be exponentially greater. The economic mobility work that we're doing, let me define for you very quickly what we mean when we say economic mobility, because it's used a lot and it means slightly different things depending on the perspective. At JobTrain, what we mean by achieving full economic mobility at its core is getting to that family sustaining wage. Depending on the size of your family, that number is different, but it's a very high bar in the Bay Area. So when we say full economic mobility, and we mean a lot of things in that, the core of it is that there's the earning of a family sustaining wage that is appropriate for the Bay Area. But in our work around the innovation for economic mobility, there is a lot of work that we're going to have to do. We know, for instance, that we're not going to solve it on our own. We need to be in partnership with the right organizations who provide services and capabilities that are part of the economic mobility path, but are not things that we do today. We're not going to try and do everything, but we are going to work to bring partners in who do some of the things that are needed and work very closely in alignment with them around shared vision and shared outcome expectations. In the moment, and we're working on the partner expansion piece right now. In fact, all of these things, domains of economic mobility innovation, we're in the process of working on right now. From an advanced training perspective and college pathways, this is the concept that once you've gotten to start in your career, it's going to be important that you continue to build your skills, and that what we do is create a workforce that is ready to be upskilling and reskilling, because being willing to be lifelong learners is at the heart of the workforce in the future. So we want to make sure that we're creating opportunities for our graduates to come back and get advanced training with us, And if we don't have the right trainings, or if what they really need to advance in their careers is a college pathway, then we're working on helping them to identify great college pathways that can be achieved by a working adult. We also know that there's a lot of opportunity for new career pathways. The problem for us today is that we're limited in terms of space. And so because there's a physical component to all of these pathways, we can't really add new pathways. So in our new future vision, we're adding a number of new pathways, expanding from the 4 pathways we offer today to 6 to 8 new pathways that either we're going to deliver or we're going to bring a partner in to deliver. And all of this is going to be very dependent on this final piece of the puzzle, which is innovation. In the new Center for Economic Mobility, which I'll tell you about in a minute, we're going to create an innovation lab, and we're going to bring in college fellows, and we're going to have a staff of individuals who can help us identify new promising practices, prototype them, pilot prototypes that work well, and then get these new programs and processes into the mainstream workforce development. So innovation is going to be the key to our thrust toward economic mobility, and economic mobility is the future as far as we're concerned of workforce. So to do all this, we're going to build a new building, a new headquarters, and this new headquarters will be in East Palo Alto in the waterfront, in the waterfront district, the Ravenswood district. This is going to be a 100,000 square foot building. We will own the first 2 floors, 50,000 square feet, and our partners from Emerson Collective will own the second 2 floors. And the synergy between JobTrain and the Emerson Collective is going to be something to watch. The idea here is that we will need more space to expand our programs locally and to create this space that will be inspiring for our students and our clients to learn in. That will be a place for innovation, a place for collaboration, and a place for partnerships. So we're very, very excited about this new building. And we're also believing that this space is not just going to be more space, but it's going to be designed with human-centered design philosophies to make it an amazing place to work and learn. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Brad Powell, who's been the driving force of the East Palo Alto Waterfront Project, where the Center for Economic Mobility will be the first development project. JobTrain has an expansive vision for the future, but the scale and scope of the Emerson Collective's vision is so much greater than ours. And it makes it very exciting to us to be a part of the vision with the Emerson Collective. And we couldn't be more proud that the Emerson Collective is investing in JobTrain to work with them to be a part of their vision. Brad, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Barry, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As Barry said, I am Brad Powell from the Emerson Collective. I'd like to thank you, Barry, and each of you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today and to share our vision for the Center for Economic Mobility. First, I'd like to start by providing a little bit of background and history about Emerson Collective, because I think it's very important to the overall story. Emerson Collective is a social change organization. Today, we work in a variety of areas such as healthcare with a specific focus on oncology and cancer research. We work in the environment, particularly trying to understand how we can be part of the solution for mitigating climate change. But we primarily and have always worked in the education sector. Our goal, really, to say it clearly, is to help as many people as possible. Education is actually the area where Emerson Collective started. In fact, prior to the founding of Emerson Collective, we started an organization 25 years ago in East Palo Alto called College Track. And as the name implies, College Track helps first-generation students go to and graduate from college. We spent the first 15 years of our existence exclusively focused on organizations like College Track. We saw that these groups could have the most significant impact on the communities that they serve. We also deeply believe, and still do today, that acquiring a quality education and skills to participate in the economy and earn a living wage is the single best way for an individual to change the trajectory of their life to provide for themselves and their families. So about a decade ago, we started to learn some lessons from the students that we serve through our educational work, and to start to broaden, really the breadth of the work we did directly with communities. We started to understand that in order to be most impactful, we needed to work with those who were most in need of assistance, and that even the smallest amount of help and support could go a really long way. At the top of our list of communities to work with, East Palo Alto has always been. That's where we started. They are our neighbors. We're located in Palo Alto, right next door, and it's always been important. So we began a journey where we spoke to the decision makers and stakeholders within the city and asked them, what could we do to do more to be helpful? Quite frankly, when I started that process, I really thought East Palo Alto had issues around public safety and other types of things, and I thought that's where they would direct us. But instead, they requested that we work with them to develop out part of the city to provide better workforce opportunities and to build the economic foundation of the city of East Palo Alto. We are now deeply involved in a much larger project, as Barrie referenced, right next door to the Center for Economic Mobility, called the Waterfront Project. One of the other lessons that I'd like to share with you that we also learned through our work with College Track and the students there was that physical spaces matter. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. College Track has now expanded from East Palo Alto to across the country with more than a dozen sites, and we serve thousands of students today. One of the sites is in San Francisco. The original San Francisco site was inside an old school building in a challenging neighborhood where most of the College Track sites are located. The decision was made to build a new standalone facility there. And after that building was completed, I remember visiting one evening and meeting some of the students. And the person in charge who was giving us the tour, he asked the students, "Why are you here so late? Why are you still studying?" And the response was, "This is the best place we could be, and it's our home." And that short conversation still stays with me today, many years later, that places matter and that people deserve, as Barrie said, everyone deserves the same access to opportunity. And I'm hoping that we will create a similar facility in the heart of East Palo Alto in partnership with JobTrain. I will now pass the mic back over to Barrie. Thank you all.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much. This work that we're doing together in East Palo Alto has been such a lesson, a learning experience for me. Your leadership in this project has been extraordinary, and it's been such a pleasure to work with you. This idea of our students working or learning in a place that inspires them, that shows them their worth, every bit of the best that we have to offer, is something that I don't talk a lot about because sometimes I worry that people will not understand how important that is. But to me, it's one of the very, very important things we're doing here. Thank you for your partnership, Brad. It's such a pleasure to work with you. And speaking of partners, it's my great pleasure to introduce Senator Josh Becker. Senator Becker has been a long-standing friend of JobTrain and has the most incredible and expansive vision for his district in California, and have worked very hard to see that the state of California is investing in JobTrain because Senator Becker knows that JobTrain can be a part of accomplishing his vision in his district. So Senator Becker, I've told you a number of times, I just can't quite figure out how to properly thank you for all the work that you've done and the support that you brought to JobTrain. But thank you, and thank you for being here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good morning, Barrie, Patty, everyone in the JobTrain community. I want to thank Brad for your leadership and Emerson for its partnership in this tremendous effort. Honestly, this wouldn't happen without Emerson. We would not even be having this conversation. We would not be at the stage that we are. So thank you very much. As Barrie mentioned, I'm Josh Becker. I'm the state senator from the 13th district. And this is a district that runs as far north as Brisbane, as far west as Pacifica and Half Moon Bay, and as far south as Sunnyvale and Los Altos and La Honda. It's in both its natural landscapes and its people, its diversity is its strength. And we should be proud of this diversity and celebrate it. But with this diversity comes not just a celebration, but a civic duty to lead and govern with equity. And so I'd like to talk about that today and just talk about why I'm so passionate about this project and this effort, and why it's really core to everything that I'm trying to do in the state legislature and for this area. Unfortunately, like anywhere else in the state and country, in this diversity, there are significant disparities in every aspect of life, from access to healthcare and transportation, to rates of graduation, to employment. And again, I just want to say how personal this work is for me. You know, I took office in 2020, and the height of the pandemic, when no vaccination was available and the inequities of the region were very painfully laid bare. And I've been very focused on this question: how do we protect the most vulnerable in this region, not just in the short term, but for generations to come? And for me, it starts with education and workforce development. You know, two sectors that converge on this question, on the ability for all, regardless of language or income, to access to jobs in this area. And I will say for a moment here how this tunes in with the work that I'd done previously at Full Circle. I founded Full Circle Fund over 20 years ago to focus on education, economic opportunity in the Bay Area. So this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. And the question is, you know, how do you achieve what JobTrain and what I call economic mobility? We made a lot of progress in the state. The governor's budget, just revealed last week, has some unprecedented funding for Cradle to Career. I'm very proud of the historic investments we made in early childhood education, including a whole new grade of transitional kindergarten, something I would have hoped to achieve over a decade. We achieved in 1 year for early childhood. You know, there's money in there for broadband, $6 billion that will be essential to at long last close the digital divide that has affected millions of Californians, including those in our district. And on a more local level, securing money for the Big Lift, which is a very innovative, I think, a regional and ultimately national model to have every kid reading at third grade level by third grade here in San Mateo County. My own Senate bill, the very first bill I presented on the floor was a bill that was called the California Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act to support earn and learn programs. This bill, which was signed by the governor, will help organizations that provide skills-based training and employment to the most marginalized populations. This includes our veterans, our homeless, our formerly incarcerated, and others. But, you know, probably what I'm most proud of, honestly, is the governor approving my request that the state allocate $5 million to JobTrain's Center for Economic Mobility. In a state such as ours, it's easy to throw around figures like $1 million or $1 billion. So let me take a moment to just underscore how impactful these dollars will be for communities like East Palo Alto. As you know, East Palo Alto is a community of essential workers, meaning they have jobs that one cannot log onto or do remotely. I have the great pleasure of getting to know many of these residents, hardworking people that have from Latin America, Pacific Islands, Asia, other parts of the world. Many have 2, 3, 4 generations living in the city. African Americans whose grandparents came from the South in search of a better life here in the Golden State. What the pandemic has demonstrated to me is that the residents of East Palo Alto, like tens of millions of others in this country, are just one paycheck away from losing their homes here. 60% of East Palo Alto's population are renters. Over a third of these renters are cost burdened. I mean, they spend over 30% of their income on rent. And so the goal of this capital campaign is simple in its spirit. To me, the people of East Palo Alto, a working class, minority majority city in the heart of Silicon Valley, deserve a quality of life on par with its neighbors in Palo Alto, in Redwood City, or Menlo Park, my hometown and neighbor to East Palo Alto. Silicon Valley has been lauded for its technology innovations, for life-changing inventions that the entire world uses every day. But it's been an incredible progress we've made on a technological level and scientific level. We've yet to achieve something that can't be engineered in a lab or made in a microchip. It's a fundamental right for everyone living in this region to enjoy from the wealth and prosperity of the 5th largest economy in the world. And we can start by transforming the lives of East Palo Altans and breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty. We accomplish by providing them with safe and secure jobs, jobs with health benefits and good pay, jobs that allow parents to spend more time with their children and become more involved in their communities. One of the slogans I've learned on the picket line and I think sort of sums up this area and this effort is one job should be enough. And too many people are working 2, 3, even 4 jobs. So this community deserves jobs that will allow them to stay afloat economically, to survive, but more than that, to thrive. It's no secret that East Palo Alto has been one of the hardest hit communities in the Bay Area by the pandemic, both historically and again over the last couple of years of the pandemic. So the essential workers in East Palo Alto were one of the first to be laid off from jobs. Unemployment was record high for much of 2020, and many were left to trade one anxiety for another. The role of JobTrain has been key to the prosperity and recovery of the city. So with JobTrain, I think we get a nonprofit that doesn't just give so much as it invests. Many EPA residents already have backgrounds in cooking, constructions, and health. JobTrain takes these existing skills and takes them to new heights. Take the carpentry pre-apprenticeship program, for example. In 12 weeks, JobTrain puts them on path to union jobs and everything from drywall to ironwork to electrical work to plumbing. The nurse assistant and health home aid program gives students hands-on clinical works, prepares them for these careers that are just so vital for our area and across the state. The culinary program teaches students the fundamentals of restaurant management. So in 5 weeks, they can go out and land jobs at local commercial kitchens. The JobTrain has met the moment in the face of a pandemic. They pivoted many services online, many classes. And in addition to these areas that I mentioned, JobTrain connects coursework with in ESL, digital literacy, as well as IT services and support, and expanding those as well. And it's in that area that I want to just focus for a moment, because for too long, Silicon Valley has operated in a bifurcated economy, where one sector of the society has access to high-paying jobs, and another, despite all their hard work, doesn't. When I talked to Congressman Ro Khanna, he's been very eloquent at this as well about it. We have to take these digital technology jobs, make them accessible in rural areas, as he talks about, but also to Black and brown communities. And right now, we are not preparing people and kids, say East Palo Alto, for these jobs. Less than 50% of high schools in California even offer computer science, something that I'm working to change. So we have a big gap then to fill, and that's something that JobTrain is working on, working with IBM and others, working on curriculum, working on credentials, because we now know to work in the tech industry, it's now not so much where you went to school, but do you have certain skills, and can you get into the entry level and then be part of that ecosystem. So this is really why I'm in this job. If we can't build a path for these residents, if we can't provide them with a job that's going to get them a fair living wage where they can afford to rent or someday hopefully own a home in the Bay Area, if we cannot build training programs in tech and in construction, every single industry, then I will have failed. We will have failed. This is this again underlies every effort that I'm taking, and it's just a challenge that we have to meet. So that's really why I support JobTrain. They're on the front lines of this work, and together I believe that we can finally close this gap of opportunity. We show the state and country how it's done. I believe, again, this is the kind of program that can be a model, not just for the region, but for the state as a whole, and then expanding across the country. How we achieve economic mobility in these communities who have the resolve, who have the drive to succeed, and are just lacking the opportunities. So that's really why I'm here. I wanted to have a chance to talk about why I'm involved in this, why I'm passionate about economic mobility. If you look at all the stats for our country, if you read books like the Meritocracy Gap and others, mobility is actually decreasing, and we're just not providing those opportunities for economic mobility in a sustained way. I served on the state workforce investment board for 7 years, great experience, but we're still doing things very much the old way. And I think JobTrain represents a new way, and really an opportunity to take the best of what we've learned and what JobTrain's learned in its decades of experience and take it to a whole new level. So I'm really excited about it. I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you, Josh. Amazing. And a couple of things I want to say in response to your words. One is, for me, I think, boy, this work JobTrain does, it's complicated and it's got a lot of moving parts. And then you talk and I think, oh my God, at least I don't have that many moving parts to deal with. But everything you talked about is a component of economic mobility. All the way back to childhood education, these things all play a role in an individual's ability to achieve economic mobility. It is partners like the Emerson Collective and the state of California that are part of the very essence of what we're trying to accomplish here, and recognition that this is so much greater than one organization and one good idea. I would also like to say that I have a lot of reasons for why I have pushed JobTrain toward this very ambitious North Star of economic mobility. And I have a lot of good reasons for that. With 18 years in the workforce development space, JobTrain is uniquely positioned to help with this. But part of the reasoning is the incredible group of partners and stakeholders we have. And I want to share some of those stakeholders with you today who have made an investment, who are our groundbreaking partners in this work, along with the Emerson Collective and Senator Becker. Long-standing partnership with Bank of America. At JobTrain, and for me, before JobTrain, Bank of America is always there. But over the last year, we've talked together a lot about this idea of economic mobility and what's required. And in response, this long-standing partner came forward with $1 million gift to JobTrain to help build our new building. And you can see that Rocky Gonzalez is just as focused on this as we are. She says, Bank of America shares JobTrain's mission of making financial lives better. As the region continues to make its way through the impacts of COVID-19, we're committed to creating an equitable recovery for those most impacted by the pandemic. JobTrain's new East Palo Alto Center will provide valuable skills training and career pathways for thousands of people in the community for years to come. Thank you, Rocky, and thank you, Bank of America. The Sand Hill Foundation, another longstanding partner, it takes being known by places like Bank of America and the Sand Hill Foundation. They would not be making these investments in JobTrain if we didn't already know each other and work together. The Sand Hill Foundation has made a $1.2 million commitment to JobTrain. And Ash McNeely, the executive director, said, at Sand Hill Foundation, we believe that a community's ability to thrive, thank you, Senator Becker, is determined by the combination of equitable opportunity, dedication, and heart. JobTrain has provided a pathway to new careers and increased stability for so many people in San Mateo County. We're proud to support JobTrain's expansion and bright vision for the future. Ash and Susan Ford Dorsey, thank you so much for being groundbreakers in this campaign. And the last partner, groundbreaking partner we'll spotlight today is Meta, formerly known as Facebook. And here again, we've been in this long-standing partnership with Meta, and our visions for the community and what's really possible have evolved together. And Meta has made a very substantial contribution to our campaign that is a combination of $1.2 million specifically for the campaign and a 5-year commitment along with that to support our ongoing operations as well, a very generous set of commitments to JobTrain. Juan Salazar from Meta said, Meta is honored to support JobTrain in its capital campaign as it seeks to support local residents through their focus on economic mobility. Their mission and work is essential to the success and vibrancy of our local community. These are the groundbreakers, along with Brad and Josh, who are going to make this possible. And I want to give you an update and tell you a little bit about our capital campaign so that you understand the context of what we're trying to accomplish here. There are 2 elements of our campaign, the new building itself, and then the expansion of our programs and the implementation of innovation strategies and infrastructure. For the new building, we need to raise $33 million. For expansion and innovation, we want to raise $12 million. And you can see that we've made some really good progress here. At this point, we have left of the new building campaign, we still need to raise $6.5 million. And of our expansion and innovation work, where the $5 million from the state of California lives, we still have to raise $5.5 million. So of our very substantial $45 million campaign, we're $12 million from the end goal. And that's what this day and this moment is about for us, is to say, okay, community, stakeholders who know us, individuals who are interested and inspired by this vision, let's talk about what this looks like. So I'm very excited about the progress we've made, and thanks to these groundbreaking donors, many of whom you know, many of whom are in the audience today, we are making fantastic progress. We're calling you groundbreakers because you came through your faith and trust in JobTrain and your belief that what we've done for the last 56 years will only be amplified and grow over the next 50 years. So thank you to all of our groundbreaking donors and supporters. This is not a meeting where we're going to ask you to give to JobTrain. This, in fact, is a meeting where we hope that we have inspired you and informed you enough that when we reach out to you and ask you if you'd be willing to talk, you're not only willing to talk, but you're excited to talk with us about this campaign. So we can share more information, we can share a lot more detail about what we're trying to do and how we are going to go about doing it and why we are so audacious to believe that we can do this and be one of the first organizations in the workforce development space in the Bay Area to put this stake in the ground, and we hope ultimately transform the workforce development field to believe and know that we cannot stop at starting a career that can lead to economic mobility, but we need to stay with our community members until they get all the way to that measure of economic mobility. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Ellen, for joining us today. We actually have a little bit of time. If there are questions that you'd like to ask any one of us, we are here. So let's see if there's any questions people want to ask before we sign off.
Yeah, and to do that, folks, you can just type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens.
While we're waiting for that while we're waiting for any questions, I want to say that that we recognize that what we're proposing here is audacious. We recognize that there really isn't any other workforce development organization that's put this particular stake in the ground. And I can tell you, after 18 years in this field, and these issues that JobTrain is finally saying we're going to get at these issues, like staying with the graduate until they reach economic mobility, have dogged me for my whole career. I have seen so many stories and so many moments when the work that we already do at JobTrain, at Europe, at Jewish Vocational Services, these great organizations who are really making a difference in the lives of individuals, but we simply aren't doing enough. And this huge goal, I would never have tried to do at another organization. JobTrain is unique in this space, and you can tell that we have the very strong support of our community, but I can tell you that we have the leadership within the organization, and we have the breadth and depth of services that we can layer these new programs on, and we have the support of our community to do what needs to be done here. Patty, do we have any questions?
There is one. I'll just add quickly before you answer that, just to build on what you just said, again, from my 7 or 8 years on the Workforce Development Board. Yeah, a lot of good work being done, but we desperately need new models like this. I've seen it myself firsthand over that time period. We need models like this, absolutely.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Senator Becker. Thank you, Barrie. We do have a couple of comments and questions. One, thank you, Chuck Baker from Wells Fargo, for your comment of wow. That actually means a lot. We like to hear that, and we appreciate that and appreciate you being here. Dan Finnegan, one of our JobTrain board members, so grateful that you're here today and that you're one of our groundbreakers and supporting us every step of the way in our JobTrain work. Dan asks, how has the pandemic changed or exacerbated the mobility problem in our region?
It's such a big question, Dan Finnegan. Thank you for asking such a complicated question. It is a huge question, but I'll tell you this. We had this vision for expanding our programs and building out an economic mobility North Star before the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, you know, the true test of our vision really was laid bare. And in reality, what the pandemic has done for us is it has given us a great deal, even more incentive to get at these things. What we found was that graduates who'd been out of our program for 3 or 4 years and were more stable in their new careers were far less likely to be hit, to lose their jobs, to lose their income through this economic downturn. We already knew that that was likely to be the case, but the pandemic laid it bare. So for us, the future coming out of the pandemic is a even greater intensity on our goals and objectives, but also a need to be very, very flexible now, to be very in the moment and read the tea leaves much more frequently and be much more experimental, because the shape of the workforce is changing. We're seeing it changing right in front of us. And the challenge for us is going to be to continually see what those changes are and respond to those changes in meaningful ways.
Thank you, Barrie. And I don't see anything else coming through now, but I know you're going to remind everyone that they can follow up with us, and we will follow up with everyone who's joined us today, and actually many who weren't able to join us. We'll be able to share this video. It was recorded. And so with that, Barrie, let me just make one other comment, a couple comments in the chat. from Bell Jordan, our partner and friend from Meta. Thank you, Barrie, for this invitation. This was a great session to hear from Senator Becker and Brad Powell and the board member. Exciting to see all the amazing work and partnership in 2022. Antonio Lopez, thank you. Terrific job and inspiring. Thank you for all your support.
Great. Thank you, Patty. Well, look, we got done early. How about that? Happy Friday, everybody. My only request at this point is that when we reach out to you, if you have an interest, if you're inspired, make some time to meet with us. We're excited to meet with you. We're excited to talk with you about what we're doing. I think the more you know, the more excited you're going to be about it as well. Brad, Josh, Ellen, Patty, thank you all so much. Audience, thank you for being here today. Happy Friday.